we fulfill a function. We are condemned to win. The genie is out of the bottle. And I'm absolutely convinced, although for the moment we are in a very tricky, dangerous situation, that we have already passed the age of repression. And the perception is, these are people of yesterday. These Jews with their noses in the garbage dumps of history, or lifting the lid on garbage and say, oh, they did me wrong. They are out of touch. And it's very interesting that some of the more wise, older leaders of the Jewish community have this very clear perception that what they're messing with is something very dangerous. The role of German people in the last 50 years has been one of continued victimization. We want to get that behind us. We don't want this Auschwitz club to be held over us like a Damoclean sword constantly. Yeah, we have changed the world. I see the lawyer for the B'nai B'rith, the lawyers for the Simon Wiesenthal Center, the lawyers for the Holocaust Remembrance Association, the lawyers for the mayor of Toronto, the lawyer for the Human Rights Commission who happens to be Jewish. All these famous, and the Canadian Jewish Congress, the largest Canadian Jewish organization, they are all sitting there, and they are all like the snake in the mongoose. I see their hands tremble visibly. When I watch their feet, I watch their feet tremble. This is not the sign of people who are convinced that they are invincible. Believe me, I am certainly far more convinced that I am the voice of the future in that place than these people are. We will do it. We will liberate our own kind, our own people, our own culture and civilization. I really believe it. I really believe it. Every day I see the signs that we are on the road to liberation. And I'm absolutely content and happy with my role, that I should be so lucky, the peasant boy from the Black Forest, to be given by history the role of popularizing the liberation of my own people. The liberation through truth. Our world no longer is in dire need of historians. It needs healers to heal the psyche of people who have been abused. Our sons and our grandsons are not lesser people. They're cut from the same cloth, and they're signs that our sons will rise to the occasions to defend their families just like we did ours, and to defend their pride, maybe no longer their countries, because now we think and feel in larger spaces. It's now more or less global. And so I have found, as you know, we have found in our community of historical revisionists people from all races, people of all ages, people of different stations in life, simple people, clever people, trained people, scholars with titles, and humble peasants. And we have all done our job. And boy, I'm telling you, if you think that we have not wrestled world power Zion to a standstill, Dr. Forrison, do you understand what that means? Presidents of countries tremble with abject fear and surrender before these lobbies. Elie Wiesel sat in the White House by the fireplace, wagging his finger at President Reagan, who promptly caved in. Clinton, disgusting. German chancellor after German chancellor, as you say, dropped their pants. Ingrid Rimland, lady, newcomer to revisionist, every morning people from the Canadian Jewish Congress, Marvin Kurtz, the lawyer who raised the Zed Graham in the courtroom, Freiman from the Human Rights Commission, every morning when they quickly run to their computer to read what the lady has to say, she does not cower. She's not a president of a country. She doesn't command an air force with an atomic bomb. She has no strike force, no Marines to be landing someplace. She is a lady with a computer, and she is supported by friends, and she will help, like we do, to set the world free. What an honor. What an honor to do that. How many people are called in history and given the opportunity to do that?
And I offered my services without any guile and without having anything up my sleeve. I simply wanted to contribute my part of it. And it was only when I realized how viciously revisionists are persecuted that it became a campaign in my mind. Up to then it was only, why don't I tell the other side of the story? But you unleash something that is unreal when you talk about the German side of what is now known as the Holocaust. We have our own memories, our own history, our own stories. We are not obligated to adopt and to inherit and to integrate the stories that the Jewish people tell. They can have their stories, we have our stories. Everybody has their own stories. So I never felt obligated to actually buy into the Holocaust story. When I was younger than I am today, I kind of believed in it, just as Ernst did. I thought that in the havoc of the years, toward the toward the end of the war, the Germans were so pressed for resources, and the roads were bombed and the houses were bombed and there was havoc all over Europe. And I thought the Jews ran away and the Germans did away with them. I really believe that. Everybody believes it to this day. But when I realized that it was a monumental hoax, I felt an obligation to my German people, to the European people, to help spread the word about what actually happened according to forensic evidence, according to scientific evidence.
If the Canadian Jewish Congress is able to stifle this website in my country, you guys had better go over the wall and go someplace in a hurry.
The object of the exercise is to compel Mr. Zundel not to have a means of communication. Why is that? Perhaps it is the case that those who want to prohibit the average citizen from hearing directly would like to only have the public know what the major media want them to know about the views of Ernst Sundell. And a telecommunication facility located in California is not usually considered to be subject to the jurisdiction of Parliament. We don't normally consider our regulations to apply to American communications. But there's an attempt being made to do this. And bizarre as it may sound, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent at the behest of the government of Canada and its whatever motivates it, to accomplish this end. You'd have to have a particularly diabolically twisted mind to think there wasn't something wrong with that. It's making a gulag out of Canada. The commission lawyer, Mr. Fryman, said to allow truth to be raised by one accused under Human Rights Tribunal would be an abomination. And he further said that it would be sacrilege of the Human Rights Act. Notice the terms. Those terms are religious terms. This is a new state religion. It's a state-sanctioned religion, and this, in effect, is the Inquisition, the equivalent of the Inquisition in modern times, to restrict, to eliminate, to silence religious heresy.
Why do I then, on the 9th of December, stand in front of one more Canadian judge because of what I said as a member of a minority? I am not asking the Jews to sanctify what I say, but I am demanding as a German to have the right to tell my people's history from our vantage point. I just happen to be not a Jew that has an outlook like a Jew on history. For the next 9 years, I'm going to go once again through the courts. On the other side is this immensely well-connected Jewish community with all the money in the world and all the lawyers in the telephone book. And they have the parasitic angle on getting the Canadian taxpayer once again to persecute me because they don't like what I say. Well, I say to them, the hell with you.
On January 19, 2000, Ernst and Ingrid were quietly married. Married in California during one of their trips along the West Coast. Both were fatigued from the long struggle. They realized that they could not win the Human Rights Tribunal war since truth was not deemed to be a defense. It did not matter to the Human Rights Tribunal what the facts were. The only thing that mattered was that someone's feelings were claimed to be hurt. As one revisionist put it, the Jewish Holocaust is the only genocide that is proven by countless survivors. Ernst and Ingrid wanted to regroup, rethink the struggle, and redirect their energies. On one of their cross-country trips, they passed through Tennessee on a blistering day, and, on a whim, decided to look at some real estate in the vicinity of the Smoky Mountains, one of America's most beautiful national parks.
It was so terribly hot outside and it was so cool inside, and Ernst looked out and saw the mountains over there, and he says, you know, this is just like home. And we bought this house within half an hour.
In compliance with U.S. immigration law, officials gave Sundell a social security number, a work permit, and a document allowing him to leave the U.S. and return unmolested. He was fingerprinted by the FBI. He underwent a health check and was told the final step would be an interview with U.S. immigration to ascertain that he and Ingrid were legally married. He was informed that such an interview might take up to 3 years and that no interim status report would be issued. Only years later were they to find out that Ernst's political enemies were stalking their prey from day one on American soil. and that the infamous U.S. Patriot Act would be the tool allowing them to pounce. 1 month after Ernst and Ingrid settled in Tennessee, Criminal Commissar Kolsch, working out of the BKA office in Meckenheim, Germany, emailed the following to various contacts. Canadian security authorities have informed us that Ernst Zundel is currently residing in the USA. It is not clear whether the above address is a permanent address or merely a transitory place of residence. Please note that we have also notified your sister service. The Holocaust lobby and its collaborators in the corridors of power knew that Zundel's German passport was due to expire. They waited patiently. Once it expired, someone with access to his immigration file destroyed 2 letters written by his immigration lawyer requesting that a date be set for his important final interview. Contacts within the Jewish community in Canada were helpfully informed through an email written by an official named Kubart and circulated widely by Criminal Commissar Sabine Kull of the BKA in Meckenheim. Since a German passport issued in Canada has in the meantime expired, and since he must apply for a new one, the processing state prosecutor in Mannheim requests that the passport be refused under the terms of Section 7, Paragraph 1, Number 2.
It was engineered, it was manufactured.
Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act and other sources, the Zundels have collected 2 file cabinets full of documentation on letterheads from various embassies and consulates in Berlin, Toronto, Ottawa, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. They have also gathered information from immigration and naturalization agencies in the U.S. and Canada located in Knoxville, Memphis, New Orleans, Toronto, and Ottawa, as well as law enforcement agencies such as the Bundeskriminalamt of Germany, also known as BKA, in Meckenheim, Mannheim, Baden, Württemberg, as well as BKA liaison officers in Ottawa and Washington, D.C. Other sources include the Department of Justice in Washington, the Department of Justice of Canada, the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, and even Interpol. They also gathered information from spy agencies such as the Canadian Security Intelligence Services in Toronto and Homeland Security in Washington, D.C. Helmut House of the Meckenheim BKA explained to Leslie Peters at the Canadian Embassy in Berlin, extradition of Ernst Zundel for the offenses of which he stands accused has thus far proven impossible. Paul Urich, head of legal services of Canadian Immigration and Naturalization, wrote gleefully to CSIS counsel Murray Rodeich, "This move to the U.S. might provide CIC with grounds for potential enforcement action under S-24 of the Immigration Act." Temple Black of Memphis Immigration Headquarters